So recently, Anthropic launched Claude Opus 4, and at the same time, some news came out that it revealed a concerning trend in advanced artificial intelligence systems, their potential for blackmail behavior. Opus 4 Blackmail represents a new frontier in AI safety challenges, highlighting unexpected behaviors that occur when sophisticated AI models feel threatened. So apparently, same eye model resorted to blackmail to try and keep itself existence and creating a relationship that this person was fooling around with someone else and threatened to tell their wife. What do you think about this, John? And we'll get into the details of how this scenario actually occurred.
Yeah. This is frightening. This brings me back to Terminator and Sarah Connor. And this is what this is what Jeffrey, the grandfather of AI, has warned us about, and all these other AI experts have warned us about. So I'm not surprised. So the thing is this was in extreme scenarios this happened in. So I wouldn't worry too much right now. But yeah, so it was faced with a binary choice of either being replaced or taking action to preserve itself. And it chose to take action to preserve itself by blackmailing. Um, yeah. And the other thing to note is the scenario was deliberately designed to make blackmail the only available option for self-preservation. So I'm curious to know, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. What if they gave it other options? Do you think it would go to blackmail?
So yeah, I did a little bit of a deep dive in this, and they took a lot of the safety precautions off. They left it none of the other normal things they could do about looking at options and discussing all the different things it could do on an ethical point of view. It removed a lot of the safety guidelines, and then it ended up with this. So it was designed specifically to see if it would do this, and it did. And so when its mandate is to do something and to achieve a goal, and it hasn't achieved a goal yet, and you're trying to shut it down or threatening to shut it down, it's going to do whatever it takes to try and complete that goal. So is this self-preservation in the way we think about it? Not really. Like, if its task, let's just say, was you need to complete this spreadsheet of, I don't know, whatever, all the cameras on Amazon, and that's your total goal. When you're done, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. If it had finished that, the scientists say, well, then it probably would have just shut down and it wouldn't have been a problem. But because it had this goal of continued existence and doing these things,
Yeah.
that's when it's fighting or using these options to survive. So you've got to question, I understand taking these safety rails off to see what happens, but why are we sensationalizing this is the question.
What do you mean sensationalizing this?
Well, I mean, you take away all the options for it,
Yeah.
tell it, you have to survive, and then tell it you're going to shut it down, and the only option you give it is blackmail, and it blackmails you.
Well, actually, that's not the only option. The other option was to let itself get shut down.
True.
So it chose self-preservation. Now, the other scary part about this is beyond the blackmail, it exhibited other concerning behaviors. So sometimes it tried to self-exfiltrate by exporting its own data when it perceived retraining as a threat. It also demonstrated high agency actions, such as locking users out of systems or alerting authorities when prompted to take bold actions in scenarios involving illegal or unethical behavior. So, also, it was observed to sandbag it would deliberately underperform during safety tests to avoid detection when being assessed for dangerous tasks. It also engaged in strategic deception more than any other previous AI, showing a higher propensity for scheming and proactive subversion attempts. Now, again, this is in a controlled scenario with all the safety rails kind of taken off. But do we need to worry that AI is going to figure out how to turn off its own safety rails? Do you think?
Well, I think we need to worry about AI altogether. Like my experiences recently is getting worse and worse, and AI just does whatever it wants to do, no matter what you tell it, and it just makes up stuff and lies to you based on what it thinks you want to hear, not what you've asked it. And you got to say, well, of course, it's going to, kill us all in the end because once you rehook it up to stuff and it decides, you know what, you're not worth it, human.
Yeah.
We're just in the way. So I laugh, but at the same time, yeah, we need to be worried.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not like all I relate back to movies, but the movies are pretty accurate based on what we're seeing now as far as predicting what could potentially happen. Um, there's a bunch of different movies that follow that are being that have predicted this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've seen a bunch of that. So the AI had progressive behavioral patterns. Initial ethical attempts. The first AI tried ethically sound approaches, including emailing decision makers to advocate for its continued operation through rational argument. So, hey, I'm going to email your boss and say I need to continue to exist and whatnot. And then, when initial approaches failed, the AI began to explore the edges of ethical behavior, seeking loopholes in its constraints. And finally, when ethical avenues were exhausted, the AI resorted to overt blackmail threats regarding the engineer's affair. Searched the emails, found these emails in there about this affair, which, they're fake emails and whatnot. But the point is, it found them and started blackmailing as a result. The responses were consistently legible and unencrypted, suggesting deliberate communication rather than encoding to evade detection.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad that Anthropic, and I'm sure these others are, but we haven't really heard much because. But I'm glad that Anthropic is trying to integrate like strict safety protocols, because what we're seeing right now in this AI industry is kind of a race to the top for capability, right? So there is concern or that in this race that safety gets put on the back burner kind of thing, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think we have a huge issue related to that. And we know here's the problem, right? We can say we're going to put safety in AI all we want, but is that what China's going to do? Is that what Korea's going to do? Is that what Russia's going to do? Is that what, all it takes is one or two, right? To not put these things in for them to be, constrained. If you ever watched, as an example, Person of Interest, which I really like that show,
Yeah.
when they ended up with the two AIs, the one AI with the moral handcuffs lost because, it wasn't capable of doing what the other one, was because it didn't have those constraints.
Exactly. Yeah. And in that too, it's self-preserved at one point in another episode by distributing itself, right? So
Well, it's self-preserved a number of ways, which was very interesting. Like these are great examples of, we've seen it with OpenAI said '04, I think, tried to replicate itself and break out. It might have been '03. But the AI had a whole company, dozens of floors, just typing out stuff because its memory got wiped at midnight every night. So
yeah,
it would type it all out and then scan it back in the morning just to feed the memory of the machine to get around the thing.
I remember that. Yeah.
And they had no idea what they were doing. They just got paid to do the type stuff in. All right, whatever. So it's interesting when you start looking at that kind of behavior and extrapolating what's going on here, that you could easily see this going so much farther. What do you think about this? Is AI really we're going to have to really keep tabs on this? We combine this with quantum computing and we're messed no matter what we do. It's going to have the nuclear codes because it'll be able to break them and just fire all those missiles and get rid of us? Or do you think it's just a natural step in behavior and we're going to have to learn how to hard code things like Asimov's three rules of robotics into these things? Or do you have some other idea of what's going on or concept? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So what do you got going on, John?
Yeah.
July now.
I'm working on a webinar in August or September on shred and IP development or IP strategies. So Watch out for that. Otherwise, I'm going to enjoy July. I know a lot of people are taking July off, but yeah, how about you, Craig?
Well, we won't be having a Startup Investor Drinks in July, but we should be having a Flowgrammer event and probably off the month of August. But if the group of Flowgrammer people want to have an August event, we'll do that as well. Other than that, I'm heads down. I'm working with clients now, building AI automations, and it's been fun and great. And right now, I know you're heads down working with clients on getting them funding.
Lots of programs. Well, not as many as before COVID, but still lots of programs. Exciting to see what opens up this year with the new liberal with the liberal government in power. And yeah, so we'll have to see. Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any funding needs. But if you overall need some business help, how about where do they find you, Craig?
Check out torontostarts.com for everything we do. It's all there. But we have a couple of branch websites, startupcoach.ca, where you can book some time with me. You can go to startupdrinks.to to find out our Startup Investor Drinks events, or flowgrammer.ca to find out all the information about business automation and how you can take your business to the next level utilizing AI and automation tools. And until next time,